What's going on? We are back for another YouTube video. Today's YouTube video is actually going to be my 5 tips for beginners when it comes to posing. And if you're just starting out and you don't know where to get started, kind of the things that you should be focusing on most, this is a great place to start. These are the things that I did when I first got into posing and just kind of figuring out how to really just get better at it, because there's no cookie cutter way. It's really simple, and it's basically like every other sport or anything else that you do in your life. There's always going to be these things that make a lot of sense to building on to what you already have. So like I said, today, 5 beginner tips, or how to get started, my 5 tips for posing. So tip number 1 is pretty self-explanatory, but this is just gonna be practice your posing regularly. Everything that we do, whether it be, racing cars, running track, cooking, becoming a professional chef, running for president, whatever it be, all of these things require practice. We have to practice the little things to make sure that we become better overall in what we're trying to do. If it's cooking, you gotta learn how to cut really good. If it's, you wanna be a race car driver, you've gotta learn how to be able to control the wheel and handle all of that force while you're in the driver's seat. But all I'm saying is that you need to practice as much as possible. Posing is something that doesn't just happen overnight. Yes, some people are naturally a little bit more gifted than others, like I'll say myself. It's definitely not super hard for me to pose in a way that people find very interesting or entertaining. However, what is difficult is learning how to transition through those poses, how to hold those poses without, struggling or looking fatigued, or just looking like you're having the worst time of your absolute life. So practicing posing can be really, really strong and really beneficial. Now, practicing posing, it looks specific. It's not something where it's just like you go in after a workout and you just flex for a second or you record your little video, yada, yada, yada. No, I have videos, and I don't think I'm gonna throw them in this video, but I have videos on my phone dating back 4 or 5 years from when I was just sitting in front of a mirror at an LA Fitness, recording myself, holding a pose for 30, 60 seconds at a time, just sitting there in a pose. So the thing that you need to worry about the most is just actually giving forth a good amount of time. 10, 20, 30 minutes I would say 30 minutes at most. If you're really trying to get better fast, an hour every day or every day that you work out is gonna be extremely beneficial. That's kind of where I fell into posing. I was doing it for about 30 minutes to an hour per posing session, and I was just holding poses. I would look at videos of old school bodybuilders, Bob Paris, Francis Manfato, Samir Bannout, Lee Labrada, all of these guys. I would look at these videos, and then I would just try and do exactly what I saw them do in the video. I would record it, and then I would rewatch my recording side by side with their video to see what improvements could be made. A lot of it's just gonna be with your aesthetic eye, meaning what you see looks ugly or what you see you don't like, that's how you're going to fix it. Nobody's gonna be able to come in and tell you this is perfect, this is the best way. Even whenever people ask my opinion, I don't tell them that this is the best way or the perfect way. I tell them, from my opinion, from my aesthetic eye, I think that this looks the most pleasing on you. And I think this would be the most beneficial way for you to hit this pose. So then first and foremost, number 1, most important tip of anything is to practice your posing regularly. All right, tip number 2 when it comes to posing and how to get better at it is knowing your strong points. This is something that I feel a lot of people don't pay attention to or focus on when it comes to posing, but we all have them. For me, in particular, it's usually my shoulders or my triceps, and specifically my right side of my body that are very strong for me when it comes to poses. So a lot of the time when you see me posing or doing videos, I'll either record from the right side or I will angle myself towards that right side to show the best side of myself. For you, it may be you have an amazing chest, you may have amazing legs, you may have a really well-developed core, you may have really well-developed arms. These things are very important to know about yourself so that when you get into poses, you don't do poses that don't compliment yourself. One of the biggest things that I tell people is if you have a very skinny, lean body, a lot of the times the poses like the crucifix or things where you're spreading your arms out wide make you look extremely small or skinny. Now, if a big guy does that same pose, he's gonna look massive or huge, but that's just because of the way your body looks or the way your body's built. So a lot of the times you need to know these strengths and weaknesses within yourself. Like I said, I know that for a fact my right side, anything with the angle looking from my right is gonna look far better than anything looking from the angle of my left. So just a really big tip. I think it's super simple, super easy to understand for a lot of us. A lot of us go in the gym and take pictures from our strong points, take pictures of what we like or videos of what we like. using that is very beneficial. Now, in that, I will also say, do not become so comfortable in your, big, strong body parts. Use your weaknesses, get better at your weaknesses. Do not let them hold you back. For me, I posed on my right side for a very long time because I have a tattoo on my left abdomen. So every time I posed my left, you would just see the tattoo, you wouldn't see my obliques, you wouldn't see how shredded I was, all this, that, and the other. Years went by, years of repetition, years of practice, and now I have an extremely developed right side, whereas my left side is kind of lagging behind. So now that I've, know these things and I pay attention to them, I'm definitely focused on my left side a lot more. I give a lot more attention to it, a lot more practice to it. But again, if I'm 3 years of practice ahead on my right side, it's gonna take a long time for me to catch up on my left side. So that's something to keep in mind when you're posing, your strong points and things like that. But tip number 2 is to know your strongest body parts and to use them in your poses and find poses that fit those strong body parts best. All right, tip number 3, and a very overlooked one, is just your posture. Overall, we have a very, humpback of Notre Dame kind of posture that we, I don't know, for some reason have developed over the time of our lives, just using computers and being on your phone. You're just always internally rotated. You're always chin into chest, just downward positioning. This can have a really big effect overall on your physique's development, but also on your posing. It's gonna make it very hard to get into certain poses where you wanna be kind of up and open and things like that. I know that I struggle particularly with my groin whenever I'm trying to get into poses like this, low. I have a very hard time because I have very narrow hips. So my hips rotate inwards a lot, and I try and work on that. I try and combat that. That's just the way that my body's built. Now, because of my, hips being this way, I also have, shape that I can create that other people can't create. But that's the give and take of just your body and understanding that nobody's exactly the same. So we want to make sure that we're always staying really open with our posture, not being collapsed into ourselves. It's going to be a really big part of what we're trying to accomplish over time. Yes, you've been doing this for a very long time. You've been staying really rotated in, really head down in chest, but the best thing that you can do is just bring attention to it. Me and Ray do it all the time. I see him do it, he sees me do it, but it's just tap yourself under the chin, bring yourself to a level position, stop keeping your chin in your chest, just here, bring your phone here instead of here, because when you're here, you're gonna look down, but when you bring it here, you're gonna stay up. So yes, it may get exhausting, but that's also a reason why you shouldn't be on your phone that much. And then the other thing is just stop being so internally rotated with your body and your hands. Make sure that you're open, staying very open and wide whenever you're doing something, or just anything. When you're sitting in a chair, try and make sure that you're sitting back. All of these things over time are going to build into a better physique, are going to help and complement your posing. Now, it's not gonna be something that's gonna happen overnight. It's going to take discipline and consistency and a lot of work and a lot of paying attention, being mindful, and just staying on top of it. So again, you're asking where to start when it comes to posing. This is something that really is the most basics of it all. Like, if you can't keep yourself in a good posture, how are you gonna be able to keep yourself in a good pose? All right, simple and easy. Tip number 4 is control your breathing. I know you've seen it. I see it all the time. People get into poses and they're holding their breath and then and if we just talked about posture and practicing everything, obviously you don't want to be super down and deflated. Even though you just came out of this pose, you want to keep yourself open, keep yourself in a good place. Again, not collapsing into those old habits and those old ways that we're trying to get away from. Because this is, how can we start? How can we get better at posing? How can we get better over time? Well, the little things do matter. So if I'm over here hitting a side chest, I'm slightly breathing in and out of the pose, but I'm not when I get done with it, because then it's just, again, building those bad practices over time that I do not want. So little breaths when you're in poses are really good practices. I try and breathe through my nose primarily, no mouth breathing. Mouth breathing is just bad in general. If you want to do some research on it, you can, but just focusing on breathing through your nose. So just make sure that you're breathing through your nose, then try and keep that happy, smiley face, or just a very solid, stoic face while doing the pose. Don't hold your breath. That's a bad practice just in general when it comes to the gym or training. You don't want to be holding your breath. You want to get as much oxygen circulating through your bloodstream as possible. So again, control your breathing is gonna be number 4. It's probably the most important tip, and it's one that when you see people on stage or when you see people posing for pictures, you can really see the difference between someone who is in control of their breath and someone who is not in control of their breath. The goal is to make it to where it becomes second nature, where you do not think about it whatsoever, just like breathing and anything else. You don't think about breathing, you just do it. So that is going to be tip number 4. And up next, we have our last and final tip. All right, our last and final tip of our 5 essential or 5 beginner, 5 starter, how the frick to get started with posing tips is going to be mastering transitions. This is something that I get a question about constantly through messages, through comments, through anything. People ask me this in person all the time, and it's just a general question that I think everyone tries to, it's like the next step. Like once you're interested in posing, you're like, okay, how can I do the transitions so that I can make the pose that I know how to hit look cool while I'm doing other poses? And the best thing that I could tell you is that transitions are just movements in between poses. It's not anything super complicated. Like I don't think about hitting a pose as I'm going into the next pose. All I'm thinking about is where I'm trying to go and what I'm trying to do to get there. So if I'm in a front double pose and I want to go into a side tricep, well, yes, I can just drop my arms, then bring my arms here and pull it back. That's very simple and very easy. But if I want to make it dramatic in any way possible, I can transition between poses to get to the pose that I want to. So if I'm in a front double and I'm here and I want to come down and I maybe bring one arm down, put myself in a good place, and then I can take that other arm behind my back, and it's just an easy side tricep to set up. Nothing's truly difficult about that. And again, you're just moving from point A to point B. You're not trying to do a specific pose. You're just trying to go from one pose to the next without thinking about what you're doing too much. It's just an action. It's not something that we're trying to overly complicate. So again, it would be like from your rear double or your rear lat spread, you would be here. And then all you're trying to do is just open yourself up. Maybe you take an arm out, then you bring yourself back here. But not anything's chaotic, nothing's uncontrolled. It's very, very controlled, very consistent, just trying to move naturally. It's not, I'm posing as a transition. It's, no, I'm just trying to get there, and there's ways that I can naturally move from here to here without making it look so clunky or really garbagey is what the best way I could think about it. A lot of people don't know how to do that on stage, and again, this is what's gonna separate great posers from bad posers. So if we're in the pose, and then we just wanna take ourselves here, and then we wanna take ourselves here, and then take ourselves here. There's nothing difficult about that, but I can make it very clunky if I want to, and very boring. A lot of it is going to involve leg movement too. A big pet peeve of mine is when your feet stay the same between pose after pose. So if you're here and your feet are like this, and then you just go here, and then you go here, and then you go here, and then you go here, like that, you're just not doing anything. And I think that it's very easy to look like you're doing a lot more if you just simply move your feet very little. So it would be here, I'm taking my feet, I'm opening myself here. You know, maybe I take my legs and I turn myself here. You know, it's just little things like that that make it look so much more dynamic when you're working on your posing. So that is going to be my 5th and final tip. Master your posing, understand how to do it. It's gonna come through the repetition of doing it. So the more that you do it over a consistent basis, the more you put in time and then practice, tip number 1, you're going to see the benefits of this over time. It's not gonna be something that you're gonna get benefits from for 15 minutes. You're gonna have to put time in it, 30, 60 minutes at a time, but over time, you will get better, you will become a master, and you will go from the beginner that you are to a very advanced poser that a lot of people just aren't. So I hope this was helpful in some way. Let me know down in the comment section below, and let me know what you think I should do next. All right, that's the end of the YouTube. I appreciate you. I hope this helped you, kind of figure out how to pose better, how to work on things that you need to work on, obviously, to make yourself a better poser overall. If you have any comments or questions, please drop them in the comment section below. Give me some ideas on videos that you'd like to see, things that you'd like to see that I'm maybe not doing that I should be doing. It's always helpful to see and get feedback. It means a lot just in general because it shows me that you're at least interested in what I'm saying and there's something that you would like to learn more or dive deeper in more, whatever, you know. So leave me some feedback below. I always appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the video so much. Trying to get this, again, stay consistent and do everything the best I can. But I love y'all, appreciate y'all. And until next time, I'll catch you later.